Subscribe, we're trying to get Kai to sing. Hey guys, it's the Gundam Boy, and today we're going to be taking a look at the mechs. Because when I look back at Oshan, it made me realize that a lot of people had no idea what they were doing with their mechs.
Oh, but Gundam Boy, you've done mech videos before, nothing changed!
Democracy's hand. I have no idea what to say! Now, not too much about the mechs themselves have changed. Sure, the Patriot received a bit of more ammo and better angles for its missile. It's pretty much the same, and not too much has changed. But the battlefield we've been fighting on is definitely evolving around us. And with the new surplus of Xbox divers, it's a good time to teach people how to use mechs. And the last time I talked about the mechs was way back on April 4th of this year. God damn it, we're never gonna get this stratagem launcher! So we only have two mechs, the Patriot and the Emancipator, both useful in their own way, but both of them fulfill the same combat role of base killer, swarm clear, and tank killers. But the loadout of their weapons make them do it very differently. So let's take a look at the XO45 Patriot first. It sports a Gatling gun and a rocket pod. The Gatling gun has a damage of 90 with a durable damage of 23, and it's medium pen. And it can hold up to 1,350 rounds. This is the Patriot's main defense against chaff units and medium enemies. And with the high fire rate it has, it means you'll be out of ammo in no time. But if that doesn't bother you, fire away. And do keep in mind that there is a spin-up time for the minigun to fire, which means your damage isn't immediate, you have to give it a second before it goes. So let's move over to the rocket pod. This is the Patriot's main way of dealing with anti-tank enemies. It has 1,250 damage, and its durable damage is the same. It also has an anti-tank level of 6, but you should keep in mind extreme angles can lead to pretty hard deflections. And the explosive damage does 400, but that explosive radius of damage is comically small with only 2 meters of damage, making it more of a precision weapon, making the rocket pods the most effective way for it to kill something like a Bile Titan. But it's limited to only having 14 rounds of this anti-tank capabilities, which means you're really limited, requiring a lot of precision to avoid wasting resources. Oh, but when you can aim, you can take out things like Annihilator tanks within 2 shots. Next up, we have the XO49 Emancipator. Unlike its brother, it has dual twin autocannons. It has a standard damage of 300 and a durable damage of 150, while being armor pen 5, while also having explosive damage of 150 with a radius of 4.5 as its outer radius. Having access to dual twin autocannons means that the Emancipator can do a lot more that its brother can't, and it's a goddamn good demolition mech, allowing this mech to be very versatile in the field, going from base clearing to enemy killing within seconds, or you can shut down those illegal broadcasts that's in your area. But with great power comes a lot of responsibility, or in this case, awareness. A lot of things I've seen people do on Oshan is that they would use their Emancipator at close range and fire at the enemy bugs like this, leading to their arm to shatter. You must keep in mind that the Emancipator has a fair amount of blast radius, so if the bugs are right on top of you and you need to kill them, you are going to damage your mech. I can understand why people tend to hit themselves with the mech, as from the camera angle, it does make it a little wonky for aiming. So you need to keep in mind your spacing between you and the enemy. And let's talk about the armor, as it's very important to understand why you should play it a very different way. Because the chassis and the hips are medium pen, looking further in, you'll find that the arms and the legs are light pen, while the arms has 350 health and the legs only have 250, which is very important for something like a bipedal mech to have. Gun tank when? And you also need to keep in mind that it only has 850 main health. You have the same amount of armor as a Devastator, and you have a little bit more health than a Brood Commander. If you're hoping to be the Dreadnought storming across the battlefield, just keep in mind you're more of the cardboard box floating around. And I know it sounds bad, but it's not the mech that makes the game, it's the pilot that's driving it, making these mechs function like a glass cannon. But even with these armor flaws, you are not at the bottom of the food chain. Actually, you're pretty much in the middle, and each battlefront has different things you need to look out for. Bot front having the most enemies you have to keep an eye out on. Most avid mech users will tell you about the shield pack, as it does provide a good amount of defense for the main core of your mech. But you should keep in mind, it doesn't cover your body completely, but it has a good use for absorbing projectiles. Since it works while you're still in the mech, it means it will eventually regenerate. And I gotta note that it only does provide defense on the front of your mech, not on your back. But it does provide the chance for you to survive attacks you're not typically able to survive without it. However, this requires you to face the attack head on and pray it doesn't hit your limbs. Even if it did hit my shield pack, you gotta keep in mind it still hit pretty low to the left, hitting my legs. Let's talk about the biggest problem that I see with the way mechs are used, and it's the way ammo is dumped. Some people like to fire their guns in controlled bursts. Others like to absolutely rip it. This requires you to find a middle ground between using too much ammo and using not enough. Going up against something like the Brood Commander, the Patriot suit should be able to kill it with the Gatling gun within at least 6 or 5 shots to the head. You thought I was gonna say 6 6-7, and up against something like a Brood Commander, the Emancipator only needs 2 shots to the head to put it down. As long as you can aim pretty well using the mechs, you should have no problem taking down most enemies you come across. But this is solely dependent on combat situations where you're not absolutely getting swarmed, as it can be very overwhelming to try and manage your shots. But if you keep a cool head, keep your precision, you can do pretty damn well. Moral of the story, apply the amount of ammo that's needed for the situation, and use those big ol' stompers to take out little enemies. After the amount of times I've played with the mechs, I can definitely tell you the Emancipator is a general purpose war weapon. It's also important to note that it's a way better demolition mech, while the Patriot feels more like a supporting mech, being able to cover teammates with precision fire and an explosive payload, making it feel more combat orientated than demolition. And it's a fairly good anti-tanker because it has those rocket pods, but they're also limited to only 14 rounds. So let's talk about movement for the mech. It has a fair walking pace, not going too fast, not going too slow, but you'll definitely keep up with teammates. The mech also can walk fast, going backwards and moving diagonally. Crab walking, though, is one of the slower options for movement, making it less ideal for dodging attacks. And since it maintains momentum while moving diagonally, it means you could dodge attacks better, but don't stop moving. And in certain environments where it's harder to walk on foot, the mech is unfazed and will continue as usual, which was found to be very helpful on something like Osha'une with all the goddamn water. And while testing it on a planet where there's a sandstorm, the mech was able to walk with no problem through it. Makes me think it's a bug because it was slowed down a little bit before. Let's quickly talk about different biomes, as it is very important to the playstyle of the mech. Things like cities provide a lot of cover from different aerial targets, or even the break line of sight with heavier units or projectiles. And since the jungle and the city provide very similar cover, it means you can get the jump on enemies before they see you. But environments where it's too flat with very minimal cover can be detrimental to the mech. But this is only really applicable to places where the enemies can shoot you down. The Emancipator especially has problems with environments where it's too cluttered to let your guns have the space to do its damage without hurting yourself. And you have to keep an eye out for certain environmental hazards like these spiky balls. But while the mechs are really fun and useful in the field, they do have their drawbacks. We already know that they have the armor of a Devastator and the health pool of a Brood Commander. Cooldown for using these mechs are fairly chunky, and I'm talking about like 9 minutes. You could spend most of your ammo before that, but if you're on a planet where the DSS is around, you get that cooldown decreased to 6 minutes. Dedicated mech divers when the DSS moves. But a lot can happen between 9 and 6 minutes. You could be waiting for another mech for a long time. Since you can't repair it and you can't reload it, it means you have to use these like an expendable. But you also have to keep your head on a gimbal to not lose it too quickly. One mech on a fire team is pretty good, but when you have a full team of them, let me just say you're clearing that map. Especially when you pair a Emancipator and a Patriot together, they can actually cover for each other's weaknesses pretty well. But I think I'll end the video off here, as it is only the introduction to the mechs. We still have yet to look at how it fares on each battlefront. And while they both feel very similar on the Illuminate and the Bug front, I'll have to say it is a completely different hell on the Automaton front. So hit that subscribe button so that you can see my next video. Otherwise, I will see you guys later.